Hello, I am Couch Scoop, and we are going to fit in five more split screen couch co-op PS4, PS5 and Game Pass games, right? I've had to pull them all in for this one, and there are some repeats, one of which we're looking at. Now, it's not officially on the 5, don't worry, but this is an older 2018 game. It's called Next Up Hero, and I was going through some of my back catalogue on my collections inside my PlayStation 5, and I was just like, hold on a minute, I reviewed this game once for literally 2 minutes on an older 5 more video that was out maybe 2019. It's basically just been brushed under the carpet, and I want to just tell you a bit about it because you might not have seen it before. It's a twin-stick ARPG with massive procedural roguelike elements, but get this, it's all about the difference in characters that it offers you and their weapons, and bolstering them up and increasing your powers by killing particular types of rare enemies that drop in procedurally generated maps. It's kind of crazy. It's got so much longevity and so much visual appeal. I love its look. Obviously, I love a good twin-stick, got an intelligent split on the screen, and it looks stunning. This game should be picked up, I think, and of course, its age is only going to help its cost. Next up, Hero. Next up we have Shin, which actually is 1 to 4 couch co-op multiplayer. It's a stunning game, comes with PlayStation 5 enhancements, boosting that frame rate and getting those visuals a little bit crisper. This video is kind of speckled with repeats a little bit because I want to just do the year again. I've missed all of these games out on my top 10 2021 video, so I've pointed them out for another 5 more. I hope you guys don't mind too much. And of course, the last few games are games that I've reviewed as standalone. Haven't actually gone on a 5 more video. I think you know what's coming up. But hey ho, it's Christmas, guys. Let's really enjoy some of the best couch co-op we've had for 2021. Let's talk about Shin quickly because it's a side-scrolling brawler that involves your attack being on the other analog stick in a sort of circular motions, not a button basher. It's a lot more fluid than that. There's also a dash, and there's also a kick which is on one of the face buttons, so you're kind of overwhelmed with what's going on, and there's a huge build system with connecting combos and getting access to a whole new moveset where you're kind of enraged and you do bigger damage, speeded up attacks. The game is visually excellent. Thrown in is a parry technique. The enemies give you warning on a big hit coming in, and you whack that button to time it correctly, and you do a huge cut through a whole line of enemies. And you've always got the choice of these 4 characters, which points very heavily towards this game being damn good on 4-player. And I know I've promised this before, pandemic and all the stuff up in the air at the moment, I do need to do another 4-player list. Holy crap, this is going straight on it. Okay, next up we've got Shoot 1 Up DX, and as you know, I'm a big fan of Project Starship X, which is on the Switch and the PlayStation 4 and is a roguelike 2-player shoot 'em up. That was at the start of my last list. Not gonna force that one on you guys again. This is a lot more laid back and a hell of a lot cooler looking as well. I'm a big fan of this art style. Also a big fan of top-down retro shooters. I recently watched a video from a guy called Kim Justice. I'm going to put his link in. He went through the Bitmap Brothers, their history. They're an older UK studio that came out with a game called Xenon, which was huge and paved the way for 20 years worth of amazing top-down shooters. The Bitmap Brothers certainly brought the craze over to the Amiga and some of the UK computers and consoles, but it was the Japanese who kind of paved the way for this format, and there's loads of amazing titles on the Neo Geo back catalogue. There's even a great one called Aladrius that I let's played with Kez. Actually, I'll put the link in the description of that 5 more, which only got about 2,500 views, which is quite strange for one of those videos. You might have missed it. Please revisit if so. Back to Shoot 1 Up DX, and it's quite refreshing not to play an indie roguelike and of course get the choice of direction. Sometimes it will just go full horizontal on you, really cool idea, and the power-ups are amazing. You get rear facing fire, and I want to explain how this multiple ship system works. The R buttons decrease and increase the spacing between your ships. The larger the spacing, the more chance you've got of producing a huge beam of devastating firepower. But the larger you are, the more chance you have of taking a bullet. You have the amount of ships you possess up there on the UI at the top, and you just collect them as these little tokens. You've just got to keep an eye on how many you've got, don't get too low on them, and don't get them all smashed up by being outlandish. Scott Pilgrim vs. the World came out this year, can you believe? And yes, 4-player, and yes, I do love it. It's a very different game to Streets of Rage or even Shin that we saw earlier. This one is very arcade focused. What I mean by that is the moveset is extremely ancient in a good way, and of course how everything works is kind of retro. It feels a little bit slow and juddery, and of course it looks a little bit strange if you're not into this art style or 8-bit, 16-bit graphic setup. But it's brilliant. It's deep with its progression and currency and moveset upgrade, and of course a large map and differences, massive differences in what you're fighting. The game really falls back on objects, the throwing of them and using them against the enemy as a projectile, or even friendly fire, hitting one of your teammates with an umbrella in the back by accident whilst they're taking a kicking from the front does make you chuckle. The source material is from the comics as opposed to the film in areas. It's interesting how they've allowed some of the license influences to come through in certain characters and certain visuals, and the music. That main theme I think is lifted from one of the tunes in the film. It's been a while, but back to the point, it was on the PlayStation 3 store, then got lifted off. There was some licensing issues, and it was in like port purgatory, port no man's land for ages, and everyone was like, when are we going to get our hands on this? Is it going to get converted? This is a straight lifted exact version that we got onto the PlayStation 4 eventually, but it's great to have it. It took it up until 2021 for that whole thing to iron out, and it's a top end side scrolling beat 'em up. Talking of top end skill up, we do now have It Takes Two on a 5 more list for the first time. Feels really good, and it was great to see Yosef get the recognition he deserves for really being a pillar in the couch co-op, especially Xbox side of the community. And he managed to refrain from dropping loads of F-bombs in front of children at the ceremonies. Well done, mate.
Steady now.
It is funny that how some people just get a pass, don't they? I've seen people get fired for a hell of a lot less than that, but Yosef's his own guy. He's under the EA protective umbrella, which will keep him pretty sound for the next decade, I imagine. I'd be really keen to see what else he's going to come up with. This lacks a lot of projectile shooting and monsters for me. I think this split screen system, although it's amazing in puzzles,
don't screw this up.
In actual fact, that's underselling it a little bit. I wanted to use this bit of footage to show the intelligence split and how it works with not just horizontal, but it's implemented vertically. Also, when one of you dies, the other player gets like 90% of the screen. It's very clever. I love it. You used to see it in older retro 60s movies and stuff, where they would corner off a character who's on the telephone and something else would be happening. Brilliant to see the space utilized, and to see these puzzles genuinely had some thought behind them. They are awesome, tense, and the communication is pushed so well. For 2021, it kind of rivals the top spot, and a lot of people have put this down as being the best game for 2021. One thing that missed me a little bit is there's just no single player content at all. You do have to compulsorily go online with somebody else or have someone with you. I don't know if I'm a fan of that. One of the things that draws me to a good split screen or couch co-op game is that if you haven't got anyone to muck about with, there's still genuinely some cool content to get into on your own. That's not the case with this one. I also my original accent's coming back, and there's nothing I could do about it. I also noticed that I didn't do a time test, alright, on the original review of the game. If you have a look up in that top right hand side, you can see I've got numbers. Now I'm running it at 1080 on Ultra, and I was very impressed with how damned pegged that 60 frame per second is. Split screen games can sometimes have a real nightmare when that split goes in. This one, stellar. Top game for 2021. Very quick honorary Rubber Band. It's not going to go on the top because I've just done 2 videos of it. There's a Let's Play Me and Kez Live Christmas Special. Link in the script. Yep, I am still knee deep in my Ascent obsession. Why have you put it on your 5 more, Coop? I did say at the start that there was an Xbox game on here. I can't believe this is just on the Microsoft Store. Stop with this Xbox exclusivity with amazing games. So one of my missions yesterday was to try and sort of break the local co-op, because when it first came out this game was in a bit of a mess, and a lot of people did say, look, it's kind of working but it isn't, it freezes, we're just dealing with 2 frames a second. It was kind of all over the shop. So I think we've had near on 10 gigabyte plus of patches go through for this game over the last 2 months, and I can safely say I couldn't get it to break. What I mean by that is the performance to dip so badly that it's noticeable, disrupts your play, and you have to just say, this isn't fun. You know it's breaking. I got it down to 40 frames per second of the proposed 60, which is fine because it wasn't a drastic shift and things did get really busy on screen, and that's probably a lot of the game's issues, is it doesn't plan for a lot of the crazy stuff that can all happen at the same time, which really can choke the engine. There's one scene in this game where you go into a nightclub, and if you think there's a lot of NPCs in the street, it's probably about 200 of them in the nightclub. It handled it, but as soon as combat kicked off, my PC started glowing. I've also realised that I'm blabbing on quite a lot about anything but what's going on screen and these amazing couch co-op games. The selling point for the Ascent for me is a 3-tiered firing system with height. That sounds really strange to a lot of people, but you can fire standing up, you can fire mid waist height, and you can fire crouching, and all of that affects what you're firing at and what that enemy is doing within that stance system, and it means that cover genuinely works, which you don't see a lot on twin stick shooters. It's just amazing how much modern tech they've crammed into the visuals as well, with the particles, the ray tracing and the ambient light, and it's all set in a flawless future cyberpunk scape. You couldn't really ask for anything more. And get this, yes, it's 4-player. Have you tested that, Coop? Have I fucked? Will I? Yes. I'm promising this one. For February's my deadline. A massive 4-player couch co-op list. Ladies and gentlemen, have an amazing Christmas. I love you all. I'll see you down there.